What's up, enthusiasts? It's your boy Rob, back with another video. We got a long one today. It's from Metreon, I believe it's pronounced. But basically just talking about Wizards of the Coast and the direction they are going in with D&D. Guys, go ahead and get your Capri Suns ready and sit back and enjoy the show.
Alright, welcome back. I can already imagine those people that the moment you start speaking about something that rubs them wrong, or just because, you happen to disagree with them, how dare you, then I can already imagine them typing these forms of comments. But why do you care? Why does it matter? Oh, I love that line of argumentation, don't you? Now, the funny thing...
Guys, get you a Capri Sun. It's been so long since I've had one. So refreshing.
...is that it's very easy to respond to that. You can just say back, oh, why do you care that I care? But that wouldn't be fun, would it? And it certainly wouldn't make for a video. So today I will tell you why I care about D&D. You see, I've been a fan of D&D since I was like 10, in the sense that I played for numerous years, both as...
I would have loved to have come across D&D in my childhood. I think it would have... I was already a creative kid, but I think it would have just like flourished even more so within me. So missed opportunity for the young Rob.
A player and as a DM. I've got a lot of wonderful nostalgic memories that we built together with friends and family, playing every single Sunday and sometimes for weeks in a row. Considering the fact that D&D is a phenomenon that began in the 70s, of course I didn't see the beginnings of it. I'm statistically a lot older than the majority of you who are watching this video. In fact, I want to say that when I started playing D&D when I was 10, a large number of you wasn't even born. Wow. So the problems I'm going to present to you today and the sort of items of discussion that we can use to initiate discourse are not coming from a place of hate. They're coming from a place of love for this specific series and role-playing game system. Of course, I don't need to introduce D&D. Dungeons & Dragons has been a cornerstone of tabletop role-playing games for nearly 5 decades.
Was that a 4th edition player sheet?
And whether it be a millennial like me, or whether it be a young person who's perhaps been introduced to D&D either through the tabletop format, or perhaps because of one of the video games, such as Baldur's Gate series, I think we all know what we are talking about, but most importantly, this enduring popularity that Dungeons & Dragons has is a testament to the strength of its core design. And today, one of the things I'd like to talk about is in fact those modifications of these core elements of the system.
For a game that has been out for so long, and for the minimal changes, like other than 4th edition, I feel like there's not been a drastic change in the mechanics of D&D. And even with 4th edition and the introduction of powers and stuff like that, the game is, all in all, I mean, primarily what it was when it was first created, roughly when it was first created. Let's say, I guess since Advance, 2nd edition.
That Wizard of the Coast is pushing for the absolute wrong reasons. Now, as someone who has enjoyed loads of different versions, in fact, even before the word version was attached to D&D, I understand of a...
I've never really heard it described as like version. We always kind of just say, edition, but he's from Europe, so I don't know, maybe that's a Europe thing.
Desire that game developers can have when it comes to the ability to innovate. But I do believe that in this climate of current...
This is a hidden gem that people don't know about.
I don't want to live 9 to 5, paycheck to paycheck.
I wish I would.
Culture war. What is actually missing when it comes to this topic is someone who can present a critical analysis of core element modifications when it comes to the D&D system and lore that is not based on politics, but is just based on love for the game and logical sense.
I mean, D&D is going to always have a element of politics in it. I think that's just going to be that, it's going to come with the time. I mean, even I'm sure if we look back at earlier editions, there were some politicking kind of embedded somewhere throughout the rules. I'm sure.
So, what are the quintessential elements of D&D? Well, character classes, racial archetypes, moral alignment systems, and of course the setting, the world. Now, unfortunately, if you've been following Wizard of the Coast, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They have been not only pushing a very specific type of political agenda in their games, which, of course, is something that I personally resent. And it doesn't really matter who's pushing or what sort of politics is being pushed. I don't care if they're going to push left-wing ideas or if they're going to push, I don't know, the alt-right in these games. Not that...
Now, I will say, so I actually got a hold of the new edition uh 2 days ago. I think that was Wednesday. It was Wednesday. I actually flipped through it, saw a lot of the art because obviously I had been watched a lot of reviews and stuff with you guys, but to actually flip through the pages myself, yeah, you really see the direction they're taking it. A lot of inclusion with the art, which isn't a bad thing. I think D&D is definitely multicultural now. It's worldwide, and tables are very diverse. So there's nothing wrong with that. But there are some underlying agendas. I feel like that they're also present on the pages, but
that it happens, but if it did happen, I would resent it all the same. I don't think that politics, of which I'm already extremely bored of, really belongs into the realm of D&D, because D&D was built to unite, to get people together, to strengthen existing friendship relationships, to create worlds based on our imagination. Politics exists to divide. Hence, the two things should be mutually exclusive. And I think the core of the matter is that not only we see quite a lot of politics that is...
If you could bring politics into your game, I mean, it can make it a very interesting game. If you've got people that are, very involved with the politics of their community, their state, whatnot. So, I mean, yeah, you could rustle some feathers there, but definitely one of those things you want to tiptoe around if it could become a heated subject at the table.
Been injected into not only D&D and all of its iteration, but in general within the gaming community and gaming as a hobby. But in the case of what Wizard of the Coast is pushing, it's the worst kind of extreme politics. And I've gathered some interesting information, you'll see. This isn't just a matter of, but they're just trying to be inclusive towards all people. No. If that was all the case, I wouldn't be even making this video. They are pushing hatred, but it's masked as tolerance.
That's a big claim, man, to say they're pushing hatred.
Let me prove it to you. Now, I don't know if you've had a chance to see this, but this is the making of original Dungeons & Dragons from 1970 to 1977. Something, or a publication, of course, by Wizard
Don't you wish you could get like a 32-ounce Capri Sun? That would be amazing.
of the Coast, that at first glance looks very interesting, which is why I started reading it. I thought to myself, hey, I love nostalgic things, and this is going to talk about the very origins. I'm interested. It's also a little bit of history, if you will. Little did I know. This book also includes something never before published, the original draft of Dungeons & Dragons that Gygax crafted on his own typewriter. That's one of the two creators.
Gygax. It's pronounced Gygax.
Of D&D, I don't know if I mispronounced his name, with his and Anderson's annotations and corrections. Very interesting, right? This draft led to the 1974 publication of the first edition of D&D, which is reprinted here in its entirety. With a few noted exceptions, every page reproduced in this book is from a first printing with no attempt to correct the original pages.
That'd be kind of cool
addresses
to see.
and phone numbers have been redacted.
Have a copy of that.
So far, so good. That makes sense. You don't want to dox anyone. So far, no hatred, no politics, right? This book represents D&D as it first was imagined, warts and all. What sort of warts are we talking about? Here we are, get ready. Some language in the first iteration of D&D presents a moral quandary. The documents reproduced in this book include many pages of charts and tables alongside lists of monsters, spells and magic items, but that game content also includes a virtual catalogue of insensitive and derogatory language, words that are casually hurtful to anyone with a physical or mental disability.
Really?
I wish they provided examples.
Yeah, I was
or who
just gonna
happens
say,
to be
yeah.
old, fat, not conventionally attractive, indigenous, black, or a woman.
For anyone struggling with high blood sugar, do not drink cold water. Did you know type 2 diabetes is...
Does it? Some people have charitably ascribed this language to authors working from bad assumptions. In the 1970s, historical wargamers in America were predominantly white. There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. White hatred. And before anyone tells me, oh, are you doing right-wing grifting? Listen, I don't care about that. I hate hatred. So if you have a problem with people because they're black, shame on you. If you have a problem with people because they're white, shame on you all the same. It does not make it a far-right or alt-right.
I don't know if he's really getting to his point yet. I mean, obviously they've got to kind of put this disclaimer in the book, just to let people give you fair warning. Hey, this book may contain some language that could be offensive to people. Yeah, that's commonplace now. We know that. We're gonna see that, before we get into most content of anything nowadays. And with the statement of most wargamers in the 70s and stuff like that being white, yeah, that's another true statement, as far as I know. But I mean, it is what it is. That was the times, man, and now the hobby is very diverse.
Grifting if you say, hey, hold on a minute, you hating on someone because they look white or because they look anything is wrong. So that's before anyone goes there and makes a response video, Metatron is a Nazi because he's protecting white people. Yes, I am. I will always defend
Protect
people who are
everybody.
being attacked. It doesn't matter if it's white people, if it's black people, if it's Asians, what have you.
Yeah,
Historical
for sure.
wargamers in America.
For sure on that, there's no room for racism regardless, man. And I know that, I don't even like that term, reverse racism. It's such a stupid term. I mean, racism is racism.
Predominantly white middle-class men. It isn't surprising that they would dub a class of fighters the fighting man.
Okay.
It's based on the European Middle Ages, man.
Okay, yeah, that's...
It's not like D&D prohibited you to be a woman warrior. I don't see how...
I guess I should have saw this coming, that, they were going to do that. They're just going to nitpick at things, and I think this is only the beginning, obviously, because he's making this video.
How this offends you. But when, in the pages of Greyhawk, the description of the Queen of Chaotic Dragons includes a dig at women's lib, the misogyny is revealed as a conscious choice. So, white, men, misogyny, any other buzzwords? It's an unfortunate fact that women seldom appear in the original D&D, and when they do, they're usually portrayed disrespectfully. Slavery, check this one out, slavery appears in original D&D not as a human tragedy. Have these people even played D&D? Not as a human tragedy that devastated generations over centuries, but as a simple commercial transaction. These people have never played. I hate Suits. I hate Suits. Whoever wrote this never played D&D. I've been
Clearly, they've not played D&D, or they are the people behind this new edition of D&D, maybe. The whole thing about, okay, me as a black guy, I don't get offended, in a game if there is a scene set up with slavery in it. It's not like they're saying, hey, Robert, your character's got to be a slave or something like that. No, I've never had a situation like that. I've never even had a situation where it felt awkward to me to be in a room and when slavery is being discussed, game wise, so I don't know. I think some of these people take these things out of context and feel like they need a champion for a certain group of people when they don't really need to.
been playing D&D since the 80s. Always, in every occasion in which in either a video game, a tabletop session, a D&D inspired book, slavery is mentioned, it's because there are some evil people that are enslaving other people, and the heroes, the paladin, the wizard, the elf, fight these evil people and free. This is like the...
That is usually how it goes in these games. I mean, it's usually, hey, slavery's bad. We're the heroes. Let's go, take care of that.
Basic trope attachment. You find it in Fable. You find it in the early Baldur's Gate. It's everywhere. In D&D, but probably since the very inception, the slave owner is the bad guy. Have these people even the decency of looking into the one name brand that is giving them millions of dollars before they try to drag the creators into the mud? And talking about the creators before we continue this, because it's going to talk about cultural appropriation. Yeah, we'll get there. But before we do that, check this one out. Okay, so we are on the Wikipedia page of Dungeons and Dragons. So if you check this here, it says designers, and then there are two names, Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson. Apology for mispronouncing the surname a minute ago. Now, the problem with this is that I can already see these people. I can see these people looking at, D&D, yeah, we're making millions of dollars. Who made it? Gary Gygax. Ooh, white guy. That's not good. Wait, who is this Dave Arneson? Oh, another white guy. Oh, that's horrible. We need to fight this. They must have been racists. Absolutely, they were racist and misogynist. This is their approach. It's the equivalent. This is so evil that it's the equivalent of me loving Cyberpunk 2020 to death. I played this one throughout like my entire teenage years. I'm a huge fan of this. We owned all of the physical books. I still do. It would be me like saying, oh, Cyberpunk, that's really good. I love it. I'm having a great time. Who made it? Designer Mike Pondsmith. Is that who's Mike Pondsmith? And I look at this, oh no, I don't like it anymore because the guy's black. I mean, what of a narrow-minded...
So, like, yeah, I definitely don't agree. Do I got pit stains? I got a little bit of pit stains. Forgive me, guys. I don't agree with definitely, I guess, criticizing content because of the nationality, the race, gender, whatever of the creator. It is what it is. I mean, especially if you like something, you like something. So if these people that wrote this book and the people that I guess that edit this wiki page or the last page he had up, if they're having a problem with the creators of the game, I mean, you should really, I mean, it's one thing if the creator is like, it's like current day and the creator of something is like, I hate, so-and-so or whatever. I can't stand those type of people. And then you're like, you know what? I want to distance myself from whatever this person makes. I kind of understand that. But now I can't say I don't know Dave Arneson and Gary Gygax personally. Obviously not. Or have ever known them or ever actually seen much more than an interview or two of these guys. They came across as decent individuals. Again, these guys are probably born in the late 40s, maybe 50s. Let's say maybe 50s then. And this book was written, the original D&D was written in the 70s, late 70s, I believe, or at least published in the late 70s. So these guys are going to be definitely a product of their time. The 70s wasn't necessarily a crazy time. I obviously wasn't born in the 70s, but I don't know. I just don't see how you could really bastardize the game or the creators for being a product of their time. It's like, I love Conan, we all know that, and Robert E. Howard. I mean, if you've ever read any Conan novel, you will know that some languages in there, some words are being said, and not all of the editions, or not every book of Conan, but there are some books where Robert E. Howard will refer to a certain group of people, obviously using the hard ER. Well, actually, I don't even think he uses the hard ER. I think maybe says like Negro or something like that, and a product of his time. And I mean, that's like what, 30s, 40s, or something like that. Or hell, maybe in the 20s. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But yeah, so it's just some things you've got to take with a grain of salt and just remember these people were where they were and the world was the way it was at that time, and it's not the way it is now. So sorry for that tangent, but I feel like I really needed to say that.
individual would think that way. I love this guy because he made an incredible role-playing game. Why does it matter whatever freaking skin tone he has? It means nothing to me. Likewise, if Dave was black, I'd be like, great, but he's not. And I'm not gonna hate him. In fact, you know what? He has a child. There we go. So if you are watching this, whoever you are, son of or daughter of Dave Arneson, be proud of your dad. He did an amazing feature. And the fact that these people that are making millions of his ideas and his amazing work, but then have to drag him to the mud and disrespect him, pay no attention to them.
Yeah, so like, especially if Wizards of the Coast want to distance themselves from the creator, don't bring them up. Don't bring them up. Maybe you put out your little, your one piece saying kind of, hey, we don't necessarily support some of the things the creator said. Boom, we leave it at that. And that's if the creator was very controversial. I don't think in any form or fashion were these guys controversial. Now, I could be missing something. There could be some stories I don't know about. But from what I remember and from what I've seen, a little bit I've seen, again, I don't think so. Again, I don't know these guys' personal lives, but at least the business facing, it didn't seem too egregious in any way. So yeah, man, I mean, how do you sit there and make a profit off of someone's work, original body of work for the most part, and then spit in their face,
them, because people should always be judged by the contents of their character, not the color of their skin.
Behind this one.
Dave is great, Mike is great, they are all great. because of what they did and because of what their mind created. Who cares about what they look like? White men. All right, but we were into, it's cultural appropriation now. Let's go. The cultural appropriation of original D&D ranges from the bewildering, like naming every 6th level cleric a llama. Oh my gosh. How is that? How is that cultural appropriation?
Yeah.
If anything, kids in the 70s who had never heard the word llama, they connected to a cleric who is clearly an adventurer, who's someone who is part of their heroic tales, and he is a llama because he's level 6, so he's even higher than the very basic level. And then these kids will hear the word llama in a real life example, and they will think, oh, look at that, that's a llama like my cleric. And so you know what that's going to do?
So now you've got the younger generation, at least back then, being able to connect the dots and associating something that they enjoy with something they could be learning about possibly in the future in their life, in school or whatever the case may be. So I don't see how that is a cultural appropriation in any sense, form, or fashion. And as a game designer, you take inspiration from the real world all the time. And I feel like that's nothing any different right here in this case. It's just having the world around you to pull and draw inspiration from.
It's going to do a positive association at a psychological level. If anything, the cultural appropriation D&D did by naming clerics, in fact, I would say is inclusive, if anything, since you're all about, inclusive. Yeah. Well, this was inclusive.
Exactly
it's not
right.
cultural appropriation. And in fact, the usage of this created positive mindset and positive reinforcements in the minds of the kids that were growing up, because they would associate something that is from another culture, from another reality, the Lama, Buddhist, whatever, into something that they love, which is D&D, cultural appropriation. But according to them, it's bewildering. How dare they call it a llama? Yeah. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the power to influence what massive corporations do, but what I can do is to make sure that any game that I create will have zero politics in it. Nothing. And I've already done that when I created my interactive adventure game that I released here on YouTube. Now, of course, YouTube is not pushing it at all, which is a shame because the people that did play it loved it. So
that's sounds pretty cool.
And supported the idea of making games with zero politics in it that are still successful. Please check the link in the description below.
Guys, check
Thank
that.
you so much for playing.
I'll make sure I try to remember to put that link in
gods,
so we can
demigods,
all
and
take a look at this video.
In this book includes game statistics for sacred figures revered by more than 1 billion people around the world. Play is expected to fight Vishnu, one of the principal deities of Hinduism, kill him and loot his +3 sword of demon slaying. Okay, so I want to be fair. This is the only thing that I can understand. Now, given I would like to hear the opinion of an Hindu person, if they care, if they tell me, hey, you know what, I don't really like that, then I could be like, I can sympathize. I mean, if they made Jesus Christ as a playable character that I need to fight to loot even the way they wrote it though, to loot his +3 sword, you can tell these people have never played, but whatever. If that were the case, yeah, I think Christians wouldn't like it, so I have to be fair and say, hey, if Hindu don't like it, then I get it. Now, given they have thousands of gods, so maybe a Hindu person could respond to me and tell me, you know what, I don't care.
And again, I think this is the same situation, and I can see where people, because you know how people get with religion and stuff like that. It's another one of those subjects you got to kind of tiptoe around a lot, and often, you know, for a lot of people. But in this situation, I can definitely see where people could have a gripe about that. And obviously, these guys are, when creating this original content, they're taking from real world sources. They're taking from the fantasy that they had back in the 70s, and they are, you know, meshing it together to create, you know, this world that we all know now. And maybe this wasn't a fully visualized world back in the 70s, but it was the stepping stone for what we have today. And so
I think it's fine. I think it's fun, even, depending on the situation. If that's what they think, then I don't care what Let's Suits think, because I care about the people in question. Because I know for a fact that these people that are writing this are not believing, and they don't worship Vishnu, to be honest. So what are the chances of that? So I don't care what they think. I care about the direct people. And you'll see that this is going to come back as a point of argumentation from me during this entire discussion, because we have a lot to show. But anyways, I can understand this, okay? I understand the perspective when it's in connection to actual sacred sacred deities that are indeed worshipped by. Fine, that's a good point. The only one so far. Despite these shortcomings, D&D has always been a game about people choosing to be someone unlike themselves and collaborating with strangers who become friends. Exactly. So the collaboration, the becoming friends is why we don't want you to inject politics in it, whatever nature of politics that would be. But also another thing is that this idea that you're saying here, please pay attention and remember this one, jot it down. D&D is a game about people choosing to be someone unlike themselves. Oh, I'm gonna use this. You wait. Finishing up before we jump into more recent articles, it has slowly become more inclusive, and as the player base has become more diverse, the player base has always been diverse. The player base has always been diverse. The pool of creators who make the game has expanded to include people with a broader range of identities and backgrounds. Lots of buzzwords in here. Not that I necessarily hate the word inclusivity or the word representation, just to give you an idea, when there is a character creator that doesn't allow long hair, I don't particularly like it. But then again, you will see why these are becoming little red flags here, because I'm thinking, wait, is this coming from a genuine place of wanting to include and make as many people happy as possible, which I wouldn't have anything against, or is this coming from a different place, a place of hatred and a place of political pandering? You will see that it's the latter, and I will prove it. As these new creators make the game more welcoming, the game has attracted new fans who, in turns, continue to make the game more inclusive. The future of Dungeons, and that's so manipulative, by the way. The future of Dungeons and Dragons here, at its 50th anniversary, is bright. Right. Okay, so let me show you this bright future that they are talking about. I really want to show it to you. Here we are. Is Dungeons and Dragons eliminating inherently racist half-elves? Half-orcs.
Yeah,
Inherently racist. Wizard of the Coast, the company that publishes the official material for the role-playing game Dungeons & Dragons, is planning to eliminate the half-elf and the half-orc races in forthcoming editions because the half construction is inherently racist, according to game designers.
I don't really...
Ladies and gentlemen, the bright new future of D&D. Open quotes. Frankly, we are not comfortable. Who cares what you're comfortable with? Frankly, we are not comfortable, and haven't been for years, with any of the options that start with half, said Jeremy Crawford.
I mean, you know, it's their opinion, clearly. You know, hey, if they're saying we are not comfortable with it, as in them, the producers, the designers, the publishers of D&D aren't comfortable with certain terminology. I mean, who are we as the players to say, you know, otherwise? I mean, that's your opinion, that's your beliefs, that's your standpoint, or it's your stance on these terms. So I can't fault you for that. I don't find half elf offensive in any kind of way. I mean, you're saying half elf. I mean, elves aren't real, so who is going to get offended by it? So I think there are people out here that just feel like they need to pick at every scab they see. So
D&D rule designer at a virtual event last week. Remember I was talking about logics? Like a logical line of connection, a logical continuity within a thought pattern. Yeah. He's not comfortable with the idea of half people. So someone who's half elf, half human, I suppose. If you told me that this sentence was written by a Nazi in the 1940s, I would have believed you. Because this is the opposite of what they are trying to push. Mr. Jeremy Crawford, I have a problem with you. Why do you have a problem? Do you realize that the idea of a human and an elf that fall in love, regardless of their cultural and racial differences, they love each other so much that they create new life because of this unification? It's the opposite of racism, you absolute idiot. If anything.
I mean, not to mention, it's used as to identify that your character is half human and half elf. I mean, in a game that elves and humans have different special features or different abilities or enhancements, whatever you want to call it, it's just, I don't know, it's just an identifier that I feel like does its job perfectly.
This sounds racist. Are we joking? Like, is it just me, or is this just nonsense? To play D&D, it's necessary to design a character with a specific race. Human, elf, dwarf, gnome, etc. Yet nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And specific class, ranger, barbarian, cleric, etc. Yes. The official materials offer guidance for doing so. The races and classes have specific characteristics. Elves have long natural lifespan, orcs can see in the dark, and so on. Elves can see in the dark too, by the way. But players can also make a character with mixed racial traits. Exactly. Half-elves are a character with one human parent and one elf parent. Half-orcs are characters with one human parent and one orc parent. While it's possible to design other mixed characters, again, the official materials make clear that everyone can do whatever they want, two combinations are the specifically listed one, and they have their own traits. Well, not anymore. Here we go, second section. According to several reports from D&D players who witnessed the event, the official materials are dropping these classes, they're not classes, they're races, due to concerns of inherent racism. For crying out loud. So let me explain this to you. What they are saying is, if an orc is naturally stronger than a human and an elf, but an elf is naturally more dexterous, and maybe a grey elf is naturally more intelligent, and a halfling is naturally more what have you, then that's racist. Because everyone needs to be the same. Everybody's special. This is...
I mean, they're still going to give these characters race abilities. And so, I mean, I don't know. This is why I'm partially not picking up this new edition. I mean, again, I'm okay with a lot of this stuff. It's fine. It is what it is. I can still role play, but this is kind of, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that just makes me say, you know what? I'll just stick with what I have. I've got, 2 editions. I've got basic. I got basic fantasy, and I've got the white box. I've got other role playing games. I'm not saying what they're doing is wrong by any means. I mean, it's their brand, it's their product. They can do whatever they want with it. But I feel like this is causing unnecessary turbulence. And maybe this is what the game is going to be for future generations. Maybe I'm a grognard now. Maybe I'm a neckbeard. And all, I guess those are derogatory terms as well. So, but maybe I'm that guy now. Maybe I'm the old guy on the outside looking in, kind of saying, oh, in my days, I remember, blah, blah, blah. Man, this day came fast, I swear. I thought I'd have 2 more editions before I was the old guy.
Killing my brain cells at a pace of 1 million per second. How is it racist? It's obvious that a troll is gonna be stronger. Not to mention that the rules in the original D&D at least don't even... It's like you can have a 20 strength with a halfling. It's not like you are prohibited, and then there are also magical enhancements you can put on a ring. These are gameplay mechanics first and foremost that make the game more interesting to play, because you have to overcome. So you want to be a mage and then you choose the elven faction because of it, or perhaps you want to do the opposite. No, I want to be a mage who doesn't have the bonuses, and then see and discuss about, oh, it was difficult for me, but then I managed. Like, there is so much that can go into the way you create a thread, a connection of the character and their experiences. Right. That nothing has to do with racism when it comes to some races in D&D, and naturally more prone towards certain aspects or certain characteristics, if you will, strength, wisdom, intelligence, dexterity, constitution, than others. Nothing wrong with that. Everybody can still be a hero. That is the point that these people, these suits, are missing completely, because they never spent 1 hour in playing D&D, while I did, you did. We know, we speak our mind. This is nonsense.
I mean,
6 years ago, I had it all. 2 years later, I lost everything. Mouth taping changed my life.
Wizard of the Coast did not respond to a request for comment.
I was going to go somewhere with that after that. So we can't sit here, now that I think about it, we can't sit here and say, oh, the people that wrote this article and they wrote that book that he was citing just now, before this, we can't say they never played D&D. We can't say that. We don't know that for sure. I'm pretty sure these guys have played D&D. I would hope that they have played multiple games, have multiple sessions of D&D, because to have control of, or some form of control of the direction of D&D, that's, and so with an IP that so many people love, I mean, and enjoy, you've got to be careful with what you're doing with it and what you're saying, and what people you're turning away. Obviously you want everyone to be accepted, and I understand that, but I feel like the language that is being used now is almost designed to deter older players, such as myself, or maybe older than I am, away from this current edition. Now, I know that can't be what they would want, because I'm pretty sure they want as many people as possible to play this new edition of D&D. And it's not like, hey, only Gen Zers, maybe, and some of you millennials. Everybody else has got to go. But yeah, man, I don't know.
The company has already committed to removing the word race. Oh my gosh,
Yeah, I heard
the
about that.
bright
That's not a big-
future.
that's
of
not a
D&D.
bad thing.
Committed to
it is what
removing
it
the
is.
word race and replacing it with species. How? These are races. And all
They are races, but there are species. I mean, because we're looking at, I think when we think race, we automatically just think I think in today's society, obviously race, you're looking at pigment, I think, and with all of the different character types, I think species could be appropriate here. I don't have a dog in that fight. If they wanted to use that term, so be it.
an elf, a human, they are racist. Probably at the behest of sensitivity
They
readers,
racist!
most likely, even
They
though the broader
racist!
concept of race-based traits will remain. This decision concerning mixed characters feels similarly half-baked. Yeah, no, I agree absolutely with I'm not familiar with this specific outlet. I don't know if they're pushing any form of politics on one side or the other. I don't know if it's like one of those, they call everything woke, which of course annoys me as well, since these people tend to call me woke as well when their woke meter is too high. But then again, in this case, I have to say, this is a well-written article, and it really does imagine the idea, oh no, you can't say that they're racist, they're not racist. I mean, even the concept of you remove the word race because there is racism in-game. Let's talk about racism in-game, because that's another thing that I think I can provide some realistic perspective and tell it how it really is, particularly for those who have never played D&D. Racism within fantasy structures is twofold. Either it's always represented as this evil character is racist, and therefore he will be the villain, the antagonist, or the ignorant guy that doesn't really matter.
That is true. That is like always the antagonist of every adventure. There's something these guys always hate about someone else, and they just want to. I can't say everyone. I can't say every adventure, but it's generally like when you've got that guy that's you've got the antagonist there, he doesn't like a certain group of people for a certain reason because of the certain thing they do. Even if you're like, oh, well, he just wants all the power, but he probably wants all the power because someone else has the power, but he wants to take the power, and he doesn't like those people because they have the power and he doesn't have the power. But I think you could always you could always say that about, the big bad in every campaign.
That's how it's always
always
represented.
racist.
I've never seen a D&D group or a D&D based video game that has a racist as the protagonist and the champion of truth. Never seen it in my life. Once again, over 30 years of D&D in all of its different formats. But the second type of...
He's at 30 years. I'm probably at... I'd say I'm probably 12 to... maybe 13 to 15 years of playing D&D now. Wow, that's That's wow.
Racism that you do have in these is the cheap shots that sometimes happen between, for example, dwarves and elves. Now, of course, it depends on the setting. In Heroes of Might and Magic, they're all part of the same clan, if you will, so I imagine they don't really hate each other. But in general, in regular fantasy, let's say, and including in D&D, yeah, elves and dwarves don't really like each other, and it's a similar situation in The Lord of the Rings. But what that creates is not real horrible hatred, like racial hatred and racism, such as what we sometimes experience or we have experienced historically with the, for example, sort of totalitarian regimes of the 1940s. No, no, no. It's funny banter. That's all it is. And in fact, even in The Lord of the Rings, the dwarf and the elf, Legolas, they do have these little cheap shots at each other, but at the end of the day, they are really friends and they do care for each other. That's not racism.
Well, I will say this. I'm thinking about this. There is someone always at my table that does not like their character does not like another character because of their species, or something along those lines. But you know what? It's like he's kind of saying it's really fun. I mean, it's entertaining to have that back and forth at the table, and I think them trying to remove it is going to be removing an element of an enjoyment, an enjoying situation at the table, because it's all lighthearted fun. So,
Mr. Offended Suit. That's not racism.
maybe these people have been playing D&D with people that just take it too seriously. That could be a thing. I've played a few campaigns with people that were like that would take games way too seriously, and they were always like mid-maxers and stuff like that, you know. So I don't know. Guys, just enjoy the company, enjoy the campaign, create memories. That's what you need to do when you're at the table.